it's James Murray, joined in the Net News Ledger newsroom by Ontario Regional Chief Isadore Day. Welcome.
Hi, James.
You've been busy lately. You've been across the country. You've been working across Ontario. What's happening?
Well, just coming back from Vancouver, here in Thunder Bay for the day at a Anishinaabe Nation Youth Conference. Pretty good vibe over there. Lots of activity around the discussion of culture, language, heritage. So that's always nice to come out of a highly politically charged meeting that I was at in Vancouver, and that meeting, of course, was the First Minister's meeting. There were two meetings that took place. The first one was a pre-meeting to the First Minister's meeting, and then the First Minister's meeting yesterday between Prime Minister Harper and the premiers and territorial leaders. I can tell you, without a shadow of a doubt, that the honeymoon's over with respect to the federal government in terms of nation to nation working together. We certainly have some tough issues on the table right now.
For our viewers, nation to nation, what does that mean?
Well, nation to nation is what it is. It says right from the outset that there was a relationship that this country was founded on, and there was one nation that came here from another place, the European settlers. And when they came here, they extended their hand. We extended our hand in friendship. We were the original inhabitants of the land, and we were we had sovereign governance. We had our tie and our responsibility to the land, and we extended our hand in peace and friendship and entered into treaties. So nation to nation essentially means that there is a respect, that there is a truth and foundation to what Canada is today, and it's based on the premise that we are the original people.
Now, you said the honeymoon's over. There's been a lot of work that the Liberal government has done toward First Nations. The climate issue discussions this week seem to have created a bit of a storm.
Yes. Well, I'd just like to say that, for the viewers out there, that we have to look at this situation of Liberal government coming in, on the heels of a decade-long, disregard from the previous Conservative government. And we have to look at it closely, and we realize that these things that the Liberal government are doing, the things that they've promised and followed through on so far, those are things that are just everyday responsibilities for government. So there's nothing extraordinary that's happened. They should have always been looking into the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. They should have always been doing what's right in terms of boil water advisories and looking at health issues. Those are just things that government does. So I think we have to put that into perspective. Now that we're facing one of the tougher issues and challenges with respect to the environment and the economy, this is one of the troubled spots that we're definitely going to have some challenges with this federal government, it seems. We just heard yesterday that the Prime Minister had indicated that he feels pipelines are the only answer to make the transition from where we're at now to a green economy.
Now, that's an interesting contrast because Sachico Lake First Nation just signed an agreement today moving into solar energy.
Right.
And not having to worry about pipelines and diesel fuel and generators, trying to change the page.
Right. And I think that's a little bit of an illusion as well, right? I think it's positive and it's bang on. Our communities need to be looking at maybe off-grid solutions. They need to be looking at the green energy going into newly formed grids, say in the north. But let's not be under any illusion here that the drawing out of bitumen and the tar sands and traversing oil from one part of the country out to the eastern seaboard and to the western seaboard. This certainly is an issue and a challenge, because it is Canada, who has a rich resource in fossil fuels, is it actually going to be contributing to the broader injection of carbon into the air? It will be. So we know that even though we may transition into green energy, we would still in essence be contributing to a warming climate global catastrophe is essentially, not to mention the fact that pipelines, we hear about them quite often, that they rupture, they burst, and they catch fire. They cause harmful impacts on the environment. So, we recognize that there are some projects that are going ahead in this country, but what we're being told is that we've really only got 15, 20 years to make a difference. We shouldn't be putting any more harmful emissions into the air. We need to figure out a way to draw carbon out of the air and start cleaning the environment.
You see that in the north here in Ontario. The ice road season has now become the winter road season, which is becoming shorter.
Right.
We're getting weather that will be 30 below one week, and then the next week it's 8, 10 above. Here in Thunder Bay, it's been really all over the map, and there's only going to get more of that.
Right. So what we've been doing, James, as you may know, for the last four months, I have been a strong advocate for climate change and impacts on the north. We've been talking to both the federal and provincial government about getting the proper studies in place and making sure that anything that's done in the north around development is going to first and foremost consider impact on the environment and where we're at in terms of climate change. We know that climate change not only affects the environment, but it also affects the economy, and it has sometimes grave social impacts to the north.
Shifting gears a little bit with young people, yesterday in Thunder Bay there was 69 kids from Metallic communities who graduated and got their high school diplomas. There was a real energy in the room. And what are you seeing? You're taking on the energy or the education portfolio in a big way. What are you hearing and seeing from youth across Ontario?
Well, I'm hearing and seeing some really positive capacity building. I think it goes without saying that First Nation people are resilient. That our young people are the best and the brightest. I'm not going to kid you there. Like on one hand, we talk about all the despair, but when we do look inside of our communities and see the young people, there certainly is the best and the brightest. So on a positive note, we see the potential. We see our young people continuing to raise the bar. However, on the other side of that, I wonder if we're planning effectively, to ensure that those young people are going to be, merging, in from adolescent to adulthood into, being a productive part of a society that currently right now has a broken economy, is grappling with climate change, has a widening gap in between those that have and those that don't have. Let's face it, we can provide a lot of education to those that are ready, those that are prepared to take it. But what about the ones that are going to get left behind? We still have scores and lists of families that are being impacted by poverty, by broken governance systems. We're going to have to figure something out. How do we take those young people and how do we create opportunities for them that makes fundamental changes in society? Because we're not going to fit into the colonial cog, right? We're just not going to, that's not going to work for us. We don't want to create or recreate a situation that is only going to get bolstered by our young people taking on jobs that really have no future towards real positive change.
That's really the biggest message for youth. If they feel hope, they're going to do any and everything to move themselves and their city, their community, their village, or their res forward.
Yeah, I think you're right. And this is where I think the real work is going to need to take place. We can't see one group of our community continue to go forward and continue to take on careers and become policymakers and join other governments and become successful within that context, because we still have the impacts of colonialism and multi-generational issues from residential school. That's where the real change is needed. We've got those that are outside, out of sight, out of mind, if you will, in the remote north. Many of those communities are seeing a lot of their people leaving those communities and again still coming to the urban centers and getting lost and and oftentimes losing their lives way before it's time.
So what's coming up next? Where are you focusing your energies in the next 2 weeks to a month?
Well, what we're going to be doing over the next 2 weeks to a month, we've pretty much got ourselves positioned at the Chiefs of Ontario with both the federal and provincial governments. What we're going to be doing is we're getting in on the ground now. I've spent time with you over the last several months. It's been since June 17th and prior to leading up to the Chiefs of Ontario All Ontario Chiefs Conference. And what we've done is we've built the foundation of a lot of strategic planning. So again, I'll return back to the concept of Homeland Reconnect.
Yes.
Homeland Reconnect is going to get movement. And why it's going to get movement is because now the federal government is putting money into the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And they're also seeing that there's huge social issues and impacts with our people leaving the communities and coming to the urban centers. So they're saying, yes, we need to concentrate on those issues. What we're going to be doing with Homeland Reconnect is we're going to be looking at, again, we've got, missing those young women that we see, unfortunately quite regularly on Facebook and the internet. We're seeing them going missing all the time. So we need to use the concept of Homeland Reconnect, and we need to apply some strategy there. We also need to look at when young people come into the urban centers, and we need to look at families that lose their connection to communities, either historically through CAS, child welfare systems, or through incarceration, and we need to employ Homeland Reconnect there as well. But we also need to be looking at, how do families and communities start to become stronger? As you see our young people get educated, let's now create an environment or a path forward that is going to be able to utilize them in our communities, in the urban centers, and keeping families together and figuring out, how we move beyond to repair what's there instead of trying to find something outside of the system. This is the age-old problem of brain drain, where we see our people get educated and leave and go somewhere else. We've got to apply that in our communities, and even in the urban communities where often our people go. So Homeland Reconnect is something we'll be working with over the next 3 months.
So the message really is that there's a lot of work to do, but there's a lot of hope.
Yeah, there is a lot of hope. I'm under no illusion like that. There are hard times. Both the provincial and federal economy, they're trying to grapple with how to get this done. But hey, our people have been living in poverty, and we've been doing without long enough. I think what we're going to see is there's going to be a shift. There will be resources that will come down. So that's the hope, right? That things are going to change. However, on the tougher issues, that we see in front of us, like, how far is this government willing to go on a nation-to-nation relationship? What are they prepared to do in terms of making a radical shift to the types of economies that are not going to continue to damage the land? Those are the harder issues. But yes, there is hope, James, and we're going to keep working on those issues with all levels of government, including municipalities.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Miigwech. I'm James in the Net News Ledger newsroom with Ontario Regional Chief Isadore Day.